luxury caravans had drawn themselves up around a very private patch of plastic grass, the green room for this big event.
What day? What's happening about my apartment in Paris?
Robin Hood and Little John Reed, just before the capture of Dodger Stadium. This is the moment when the star's nerves are most exposed. The entourage which has escorted him across Los Angeles and those who've been preparing to receive him know that this is the time when they should respect a certain distance. At this moment, Elton gravitates towards the man who knows him and his moods best, John Reed.
He loves what he's doing, doesn't he? Doesn't have to worry about it.
On the morning after the first concert, when the first press reviews came in, we had breakfast in the garden of Elton's house, perched on a hillside overlooking Los Angeles, that same house which once belonged to Greta Garbo. We took our choice of tea and coffee and champagne, and I asked him whose idea it had been to fly out his family and his friends.
No, it was a total shock for me. I mean, I don't take much credit for it myself. Even though I'll probably get the bill. No, that's untrue, folks. It was John's idea, my manager, John Reed, and I think it's a great idea to sort of import the whole office over and give them. They work really hard, the office in London, and everybody from like the accountants down to the fan club, the girls who run the fan club, and relations and lawyers and people like that have all come over. And they still can't believe they're here. It's a bit weird to come. I mean, some of them have been as far as Clacton, you know, and all of a sudden they're in the midst of all the palm trees and going to Grauman's Chinese Theatre and having hot dogs and things like that.
And seeing you with 55,000 people.
Well, they saw me at Wembley with 72, so I don't think that makes that. I just think they're just knocked out to be in Hollywood, you know. Yeah. I mean, it's very impressive. I mean, when I first came here, I was impressed.
Are you still impressed by any of it?
It wears thinner after a time. I mean, I like Los Angeles a lot. People knock it for its plastic, you know, it's false and it's phony. But if you know that, then that's all you have to worry about.
It takes, though, doesn't it? It takes a very strong imaginative effort to actually put yourself into a trashy scene and enjoy it. No,
not at all.
Oh, well.
No, I mean, I'm adaptable for any occasion. No, I think you just have to get... I mean, I like Los Angeles. I could nowhere live here all the time. I mean, my roots are firmly entrenched in England because I think if I lived here full time, I think it would gradually get to the... it's a very slow pace, and a lot of American musicians don't push themselves as hard as they should. I don't think anyway. They're very slow in their output, which people will say, well, so they should be, you know, you put too much out and you're not selective enough. Mm. But I disagree. I think a lot of American musicians lose their way a lot. And I think it's, I don't know, there's something about England, even though the audiences are much quieter and less responsive, that breeds ambition and drive amongst musicians. It's amazing. I think it's because when you grow up as a child, over here, everybody usually has a car when they're 16. Now, I never had a pair of roller skates till I was 23. You know, I mean, and, you know, you have to struggle, and
You didn't have hush puppies either, did you?
no, I couldn't have hush puppies. Can you believe it?
No mohair sweaters.
No, none of those awful pink and mauve ones. Do you remember from Carnaby Street? I was forbidden to go down Carnaby Street. You imagine something so daft. Oh, you can't go down there. Den of iniquity. All those old soldiers' uniforms they're wearing. Bloody moth-eaten rubbish.
But didn't that tempt you to want to go up? Didn't you sneak down?
No. Never. Well, I could never get into the clothes anyway, so it would depress me. So,
What did you look like? Were you round?
I sort of looked like, a young Reginald Maudling, I would say.
No. When breakfast was finished, Elton had to go and change for his second big day at Dodger Stadium. The morning's favourable press reviews had drawn attention to the enormous electricity generated by the crowds the day before. And while Elton was getting unhooked from our smaller batteries, I talked about that highly charged atmosphere with the man who most closely shares Elton's music.
You do that, then shoot down your plane. It'll take you a couple of tequila sunrises to send you on your feet again. Maybe you get a replacement, standing like me to be found. Who ain't got a penny, sniffing for tennis like you.
Which allows him to joke at John's expense regularly.
Although John likes to see his name mentioned in the Glasgow paper once every 3 months as being the richest man that Scotland's ever produced. I think Bernie. I think Bernie comes off worse than me. I feel sorry for Bernie in a lot of senses. If there is any criticism hurled at me, and there is often a lot of criticism hurled at me, Bernie usually has to take more criticism than I do. So
Without the applause.
Without the applause, and I don't think he gets enough share of the limelight, and I won't let him.
How often do you use yours or John's yacht?
Well, he goes on it quite a bit because he likes sort of driving it around and things. I don't understand that. I'm a bit frightened of the sea, and after seeing Jaws, I should probably never go near a beach again. I never have the time, quite honestly. I'd rather play tennis and go sort of out on the boat. I mean, after 5 minutes, I say, well, what else does it do? So it floats. So ducks float. So I'm a bit like that on holiday. You know, I'm sit out on the beach after 10 minutes, and I say, well, what's going to happen next? Very restless. That's why, people say I work too hard. It's because I get so bored doing nothing.
Do you bore awful easy?
Oh, terribly. Yeah.
You're short and fat and awkward, or so you claim to be, and yet here you are, perhaps the world's now currently most successful pop star. Is there a message of hope to all those people who are similarly inclined and ambitious?
Well, I hope. Well, I mean, anyway, if you're ambitious enough, you can make it in. I've always said that ambition is something that you're born with, and it doesn't matter what shape you are. If you're ambitious and you want to succeed, you will succeed. I'm still ambitious, even though I'm supposedly the #1, as you said, rock star at the moment, which I never think of myself as anyway, because I always think things can get better. I mean, for example, the new band's been together and it's done about 24 engagements so far. I mean, a couple of funerals, we played a couple of bar mitzvahs, and you know, we're gradually getting in.
The sun has gone down over the Californian hills, and the powerful floodlights at Dodger Stadium have lit up the multitudes who've trekked in from the sun. I've been watching your mother closely for a week. And,
It's all untrue, folks.
and as well as obviously having a very good time, which she is, and as well as obviously being looked after, which she is, it occurred to me, driving here today, that she must have new sets of problems now.
Yeah, everyone thinks she's rolling in money because I'm rolling in money supposedly. You know, everyone thinks that she's got as much money as I have, which is ridiculous. People assume that if you're the mother or father of somebody famous, that you must be just rolling in it. So people expect her to live up to, expect to go around to her house and have Moet and Chandon poured down their throat. In fact, they get beans on toast, you know. Yeah. She does, and she, people sort of take advantage, which is a human, I don't know. I think it's a failing that we all have. I think I've done it, and everybody takes advantage if you can, sort of. When I used to sort of work in the Mills Music in Denmark Street, I used to quickly nip home with a couple of music books that I used to steal and things like that. And you do take, I think, when people say, well, don't you mind people taking advantage of you? I say, well, if it's on a small scale, no, because it's just human nature. I mean, people always do. I don't really mind.
But she's obviously got a new set of problems to cope with herself, hasn't she? I don't mean she's laden down with it, or she's on a psychiatrist's couch with it, but...
No, she's much more cleverer than you or I or anybody else put together. She constantly amazes me because she's always right, you know. I mean, if I meet somebody new, she'll go, oh, don't like him. And I go, he's all right, or, he's trustworthy. And she'll always be right. She can, smell a rat from the word go. That's probably why she's not here now.
Gee,